Chapter 15, Establishing Sar's Name. As the captain of the host, Kohengal was responsible for making sure his men, the Elenthial host, were fully prepared for battle. The first step in this process was to teach Shatar and Uriel everything they needed to know. He pulled the two aside and worked intensively with them on hating evil, recognizing the enemy, and how to be on guard. He trained them on tactics of mental and physical combat. He instructed them on strongholds and weak links. He removed all limitations on using their angelic powers. At one point, the large room they were training in was filled with flying objects as they practiced controlling space and matter. When their training was complete, the second step was implemented. Kohengal, Shatar, and Uriel began working with the Elenthial host. The host was divided into 3 groups, and each group was assigned to one of the 3 leaders for more intensive training. Abaddon selected a division of Isham to work with him on his highest assignment. Men, we have the honor of establishing Sar's name throughout the cosmos. Abaddon introduced the idea to them. I am here to testify to you that we are now serving the coming king. Sar is the giver of power, and he has bestowed his gift of Zud on only the best of the angelics. You are among those best. Abaddon spoke with these words, unaware that Sar had just proclaimed himself king to the other angelics. Everything was happening according to plan. The only question was, whose plan? The children's screen split, revealing a vaguely familiar portion of the cosmos. Look, an encrypted scene. What is it? Asked Andrew. Rashawn momentarily stopped reading to examine the screen. The children were leaning forward and squinting, trying to discern the image. Rashawn had trouble making it out, so he decided to continue reading. He knew this would be the only way to solve the mystery. Upon completing his instructions to the Isham, Abaddon led the men out toward the area of the reported cosmic door. It was not long before several Isham stumbled upon it. We found something, 2 of the Isham called out. I hope that something looks like a door, Abaddon replied, hoping they were not wasting his time. He was pleased when he drew closer and confirmed that it was the door Bashan had described. Curious thing, this door. We need to open it and get inside. It is my duty to brand the cosmos with Sar's symbols, and this is inside Sar's cosmos. Abaddon spoke as he looked for a handle of some type. The children continued watching the smaller screen, which gave an illusion of traveling through fog. As the fog parted, their confusion turned to understanding. The image on the screen was of the black portals situated in the western portion. They recognized Bashan and his appointed Abir. They were situated near the area where Bashan had offered his second Abir, just on the cusp of the portal. The Malik strongmen were approaching with their captives. A struggle ensued as the 3 captives desperately tried to escape their fellow Maliks. Many of the children covered their eyes, knowing what was about to transpire. The captives were overcome by the strongmen and were pushed into the portal's pool. All the strongmen present watched as the captives desperately scrambled to break free from the portal's powerful draw. Is it over yet? Cried Mia, who had covered her eyes. Almost, stated the boys in unison. The struggling Maliks finally gave up and were sucked into the blackness. The smaller screen closed. The mysterious door was proving difficult to open. I do not see anything to grab hold of, Inishai reported. He began to run his hand up and down the door, feeling for any discrepancies. Soon the other Isham followed his lead and began to work their way around the door's massive frame. Another group moved to the back of the space, only to find a veiled area, which mimicked the cosmic surroundings. Nothing back here except a cold, wet wall, another Ishai declared from behind the door. There has to be a way inside, Abaddon ordered. Get it open. Sir, maybe we can speak to it as we spoke to the branches of the Tree of Knowledge, said an Ishai that had worked with Azazel on preparing Sar's palace. Abaddon stepped back. He looked up and down the length of the door, put himself roughly in the middle, and spoke. Open. I command you to open. Nothing happened. I need everyone to work with me. Line up so that we form a line down the front of the door. On my account, everyone give the command to open. I believe that with the combined power of the Zud, we can open it. The Isham lined up from one end of the door to the other. Abaddon's voice echoed as he gave the order. In unison, the command rang out. "Open!" Their cry bounced off the door and momentarily deafened each one of them. Abaddon's head pounded as the order lingered in his ears. He had planned to journey inside to leave Sar's mark, but that was no longer the plan. With his hand still on his head from the ringing, he decided to step forward. If I cannot claim the interior for Sar, I will leave his brand on the door for everyone who tries to enter later. The others watched Abaddon step out. I declare this entrance and whatever lay behind it, Sar's, Abaddon proclaimed as he reached for the door. Immediately he was thrown back toward the waves of afar with his men in pursuit. No one was willing to comment on what had happened, but surrounded him as if they too had experienced the same shock. Abaddon shook it off and turned toward Rebetz. "Move out," he ordered. Sar was pleased to see Bashan and the others return so quickly. He had a surprise prepared for them. Near the base of the throne stood a hidden display that had been veiled by a massive black cloth. Sar had appointed Azazel to guard the display until he was ready to unveil it. "Tell me everything," Sar requested as the strong men approached the throne. As they retold what happened, Sar could hardly contain his excitement. He sat reveling in the details of the losing competitor's demise. When the report concluded, Sar gestured to his other strongmen, Vanity, Haughty, Jealousy, and Infirmity, who were waiting to be summoned. He dramatically rose from his position upon his throne to speak. "A new era has begun. You have proven yourselves worthy as my strongmen, and as king, I dub you as my 12 princes. This fulfills the prophecy just as the landscape of Adam foretold," began Sar as he paced in front of the 12. "Before I can share my revelation of the Zood with you, I must assign some of you new names. Each name will convey a far more superior purpose than your given name. It will convey my purpose. As I speak your new name, your outward characteristics will become synonymous with that name. You will develop and perfect these characteristics using the Zood as your guide. With practice, you will have the power to spread your name over other angelics," Sar concluded as he approached the Malaks. "Fear," Sar called out as he approached him. "You impressed me when you proposed competition. Before your group began, I imparted a new name upon you. I chose this name for you, predicting that you would use fear as one of your tactics. Your use of fear has brought your name to life. You have indeed given it its characteristic. You were unaware of my plan, but I wanted to show how influential my powers truly are, how deep into your being my words can reach. I am honored, sir. And you," Sar continued as he turned his attention to one of Fear's partners in the competition, "I watched as you gave the sheep a false sense of security. Your name will be Ob, which means one that seems familiar." The Malak bowed in reverence. Sar then addressed the other. "You did excellent work keeping the sheep confused, while Fear built a constraining fence around them. Your name will be Confusion," Sar announced before moving on to the second winning team. "I was very impressed with the way you enchanted the sheep with your song. It was not physically aggressive, but was most effective. You will be called Enticer," he proclaimed to that group's leader. Sar paused as he moved to face Enticer's partners. "You too will be given the name Divination and Deceit. These names suit your actions during the competition. Soon I will teach you much more." The two Malaks also bowed as Sar moved on. "Bashan, your name will remain unchanged, but I promise it will be a name many will come to know. You and your men will be my guards and protect my dominions wherever they may be," he stated before moving on to the Abir that Bashan had appointed. "I bestow upon you the name Bondage. You will play a strategic role in preserving my dominions." "It will be my honor," replied Bondage. "I desire that all my Abirs learn to stand erect. You must perfect this position to act as my guards." Next were Jealousy and Infirmity. "I have something different in mind concerning your names. Instead of giving you new names, I will confer on your names the new characteristics you displayed. Jealousy, your new characteristic rang true when I observed the way you envied the other Abirs. It has proven you worthy." Jealousy simply nodded in full understanding. Infirmity, who had been recovering since his exploration of the stones of fire, was standing beside him. Sar directed his attention to him. "You will never fully recover, therefore this characteristic will forever be attached to your name, Infirmity." "As you wish," replied the Burn-to-Beer as he accepted his fate. Sar then moved on to Haughty and Vanity, the two Isham who had played an integral role in improving Sar's appearance, both with the Zood and with his throne. "Your names will remain the same. I assured you both in my palace on Rahab that your fame would come from your skilled craftsmanship. Your names will become synonymous with those desiring beauty and skill." Turning his attention back to the group, Sar announced, "You will never desire your old natures again, and you are to be a testament to the Zood and to me wherever you go. As princes, you will be given many great honors. Let us now move to my revelation of the Zood. Learning my new truths will be vital to capturing Elenthial." The Isham arrived on the yellow stone Rebets, only to find that jealousy had not exaggerated about the stone's changes. The Isham pulled their robes tightly around their bodies, trying to ward off the chill of Rebets. Abaddon examined the terrain, trying to determine the best place to build a monument for Sar. "What is our assignment, sir?" asked Inishai. "I have already told you our assignment. It is to brand the cosmos with Sar's name." "Sir, I mean exactly how do we do that? You have not told us." Abaddon recognized this Ishai as one of those that worked with Azazel on Sar's palace. "You do outstanding work. I have seen your monuments. What ideas do you have for Rebets?" he asked. The stone's chill was becoming almost painful for many of them, and Abaddon simply wanted to get the job done and leave the stone. "Well," the Ishai was not sure how to continue, "because this stone is so cold, I would suggest we use what we can and not actually build a monument. I do not envision this stone hosting any assemblies, therefore I would think that the monument should be distinct yet simple." "Give me an example of what you call distinct yet simple." "I am thinking of a monument that is recognizable from overhead, much like the face of a dam, but not something built. More like an enormous painting on the surface rather than a sculpture. An aerial monument. Anything to get us off this blasted stone. Come up with a plan that is associated with Sar, something everyone knows him by." "Like his palace?" "Perfect. The design of his palace would be excellent. Everyone would recognize that shape and associate it with only Sar. It is imperative that the 8-pointed star is there too. That is a must when making his brand," Abaddon instructed as he divided the Isham into several groups. "Listen up. This Ishai will be our lead man for this project. You know how it works. He will share the design with you, and then you will move into position and begin your work. Our goal is to get it done quickly so we can move out." To speed up the process, the lead Ishai simply instructed each group to reproduce an aerial view of Sar's palace, including the star pattern. "Be creative with the way you make the wheat, barley, and corn move. It will easily bend with pressure. Use what we have," he instructed. Abaddon traveled away from Rebets to watch the work, as well as to remove himself from the cold. Below him, a circular formation of Isham began to move in a series of gyrations. With each movement, the wheat and barley were pushed over in one direction. The Isham generated an intense heat which left the crops bent but not broken. As the vegetation bowed to their demands, Abaddon could see the outline of Sar's palace come to life. The design could be seen clearly by the end. In order to accomplish the 8-pointed star, the Isham alternated the pattern of the vegetation. Some of the crops had browned in the cold, so the star was made with upright pieces of yellow corn combined with bent browning wheat and barley. Abaddon was pleased with what he saw. When all the Isham had completed their symbols, they were beckoned to Abaddon, who had then escorted them to the white stone Zohar. Or's chamber in the Elenthial hall was bustling with commotion. A brigade of Nagad's men was bringing messages from the perimeter check. The reports did not tell Or anything he did not already know. It simply informed the Angelics of what was happening. The brigades were also sending reports to the communication center with each main entrance stop. The gates remained locked, but the men were able to see out into the cosmos and down toward the retreating outer edge. Nagad entered the hall. Forgive the interruption, but urgent messages are coming in quickly. I have reports of strange colored clusters being birthed in a gaping hole in the western portion in the outer edge, filled with an empty container of some sort. Sir, I remember having documented a portal with a silver chest in it, but this gaping hole that my men reported does not sound like the same thing. It is the same chest that was reported to you back on a dam. How did it open? Everyone knows not to touch those gifts. Let us say that the circumstances that were needed to open the chest were put into place and will be with us for a while. The gaping hole you speak of is actually the portal that is now feeding evil into the cosmos. It will soon erupt, bringing the blackness of the Asoavel into the cosmos. The clusters you speak of are being formed in preparation of the second age. Remember, the first age will soon be ending. Or wished he had a better answer to give, but could only share the truth. Is Alinthial in danger? No. However, our enemy believes that we are, and will be acting on that notion soon. Nagad, do not be concerned about the reports. They are all true, for only truth can survive here. Simply be prepared for your mission and follow my orders. Return to your post with your men. Prepare for battle. When you hear the call of judgment on Rahab, immediately blow your trumpet as you did on a dam, ordered Or. Sar descended from his throne and stood beside Azazel. As I stated before, this is a new era. We are no longer bound under the rules and regulations given to us by Or, our oppressor. The Zood gives you freedom unlike you have ever known, freedom to explore the wisdom that I have given to you. You no longer have to conserve your powers. I will teach you how to fight. I will share with you the knowledge necessary to construct and utilize tools as weapons, he proclaimed while signaling Azazel. Azazel pulled down the massive black veil, uncovering several objects, both familiar and unfamiliar. Sar approached one of the unfamiliar objects, picked it up, and dramatically turned to show it off to his newly appointed princes. All of these items you see before you will play a key role in capturing Alinthial. The concept of war and weaponry is new to us all. While Or and his angelics, well, what is left of Or and his angelics, go about their business using the same dull tactics, we will be using the wisdom provided by the Zood to employ a more efficient manner in which to defeat them, declared Sar. As he spoke, he moved toward a small group of trees and raised the unknown object to eye level. Keep your eyes on those trees. Consume, he yelled out. Instantly, a bright white laser shot from the object and set the trees ablaze. Sar's princes dashed to the unveiled area, eager to experiment with the different items and develop them into an arsenal of weapons. I want something loud, exclaimed Fear. This brought a smirk to Sar for the way Fear's desires matched the fear characteristic of his new name. Some of these weapons you have never seen, while some you will recognize. Azazel, bring me an angelic. One of little significance, Sar commanded. Azazel turned and grabbed an Ishai walking by. Sar requests your service, he stated. The Ishai willfully complied, and Azazel presented him to Sar. Extend your arm, Sar requested as he reached for a long sickle-shaped object. Does anyone recognize this? It is one of the tools used to harvest wheat on Rebets, Bashan answered. Excellent. Now I will show you another use. Sar raised the sickle, and before the Ishai could react, Sar forcefully propelled it downward, severing his arm. The Ishai fell to the ground, crying out. The angelics were stunned by Sar's aggressive actions, for although they were beginning to have similar thoughts, they had never witnessed such violence. Sar bent over, picked up the arm, and held it firmly against the Ishai's body. Reattach, he commanded. Immediately, the Zood from the Ishai's body fused with the Zood on his severed arm, giving the illusion that the Ishai had been made whole. You are dismissed. The Ishai strolled away, unable to fully feel his arm. This type of aggression is unfamiliar to the angelics of Alinthial and will greatly thwart their defenses. Be creative in your use of common objects. Use your imagination and allow the Zood to give you insight, Sar commanded. The 12 princes collected a variety of weapons and set up training camps all over Afar. Their goal was to show the others how to rely on the creativity of the Zood as well as to prepare them for battle. The white stone of fire was in Abaddon's sight. The Isham felt like they were going home and were excited about returning. As they approached their home, however, the stone looked different. The once flowing fabrics which had adorned their dwellings no longer fluttered in the breeze, and their colors had dimmed in the changing light. The glistening water in the public square's pools was gone. There was no water on the entire stone. "Does anyone remember seeing water on Rebet's?" Abaddon inquired. No one answered. "I did not hear that in Jealousy's report to Sar. How could he have missed that? I will be sure to address his sloppy reporting when I return and have him removed." Inishai rushed up from the back of the formation and began explaining. "The drinking lakes were still there, sir, only they were different. The water had hardened and become an off-white color, no longer shining as before. I stepped out on one of them after kicking it and was able to walk across the lake. I regret we did not inform you of our discovery, but you had already begun towards Zohar before we joined the movement." "How many of you witnessed the hardening lakes?" Abaddon asked. Several hands raised in the rear ranks. He did not know what to make of this report, so decided to address their task at hand. "Now what about Zohar?" "Sir, would you like us to follow the pattern from Rebet's?" asked one of the workers. Abaddon redirected the question to the Ishai leading the project. "Suggestions for Zohar? We can do a more thorough project on this stone." "If you approve," the lead Ishai began, "I would like to continue with the aerial patterns. You planned well for this day when you designed our public squares to act as our recreational parks. They already resemble the shape of Sar's palace. We can be more creative around the pool areas since all of the water is gone." "Yes, and let's highlight the stars in the pools. I also want the symbols that decorate the palace's entrance and courtyard to dot this stone." "Yes, sir. Consider it done." The Ishai moved a bit higher than the others and barked out Abaddon's orders mixed with his details. "Zohar is no longer our home. It is to bring glory to Sar. Collect the fabrics from the dwellings and arrange them to mimic the decorations that adorn Sar's palace. Abaddon wants Sar's star to be the primary monument. Use the opaque fabric to recreate the star all around the stone. I want the sheer fabric to be gathered into the pools so that the shine can be restored to the pool's design. Zohar must become known for its shining star monuments." Immediately, the Isham went to work. By the end, Zohar did bring glory to Sar. Sar's 8-pointed star could be found in every direction. "Our work is done here. Now to Adam, where I have specific instructions for you," Abaddon called out to the nearby Isham. They quickly spread the word and trailed off to Adam. As they left their old home behind, several of them noticed that it did not shine as it once had. No one knew if it was from the dimming cosmos or the stone itself.